Welcome to our Tuesday, May 19th City Commission work session. I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triolo.
Here.
Vice Mayor Scott Maxwell.
Here.
Commissioner Christopher McCoy.
Here.
Commissioner Andy Amoroso.
Here.
Commissioner Ryan Meyer.
Here.
If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner McCoy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we start, a couple of items of business. I will need consensus to waive the rules to extend the public comment time from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. Do I have consensus from the board?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Vice Mayor?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Item 3A, and after we have a discussion on this, staff will present, city manager will present, and then we will have, it's open to the public for everyone to talk about, okay? Lake Worth Beach Complex, casino building, vacant space, and municipal pool. The invitation to negotiate, otherwise known as the ITN. I just want to thank everyone for being here. I love seeing everyone here in this room together. I want to take an opportunity to tell everyone how important this matter is. Our beach and casino topic are important to all of our residents and taxpayers of the city. Some of us have been here for a while, some of us just got here, and some of us have been here longer than all of us put together. Lake Worth has amazing assets, and we need to figure out how to best utilize them to the benefit of our residents and taxpayers. But before we start tonight, we can all remember a couple of things, why we're here. We have some issues with our beach budget as it relates to casino operations. We have a pool that was never factored into any equation, a casino complex that basically, in fact, of all the green features that we wanted there, that were planned for the complex, were value engineered right out of the plan to meet the reality that we've all faced here, which is paying the bill and getting the complex open. The complex has had conflicts due to budgetary constraints and decisions, and I don't even know if people think about this. You know, I was one of the ones who was really looking forward to getting the pool open, and we did manage to get it open for 29 hours a week, because I love that pool. But did you know that it's not really a competition pool? I just learned this. Do you know that our pool is not enough, it's not deep enough to be used as a qualifier pool? So if we ever were to have a meet there, and someone actually set a record that it could never be certified, or make the history books because our pool doesn't qualify, I didn't even know that. Juan shared that with me actually earlier today. And let's not forget our pool building and facilities that are falling apart and were never addressed in the original beach casino complex. So why are we here now? We're here to work together to create and finish the casino project with a sustainable plan that gives the community the amenity it needs and deserves. And let me be clear, this is about the future of our city. We're not going to make a decision based on who speaks the loudest, and it can't be about politics. It has to be about creating a plan that's fiscally attainable and, more than important, sustainable. I also want to clarify one more thing. The ITN was an invitation to investors, business people from within Lake Worth and beyond to share their ideas, all of their ideas, and possibly partner with us and, quite frankly, help us do things we cannot do on our own due to financial restraints. But the ITN is a process. It ends to a means, a negotiation, and please remember tonight, we don't have to do anything we don't want to do. With that said, let's keep focused tonight on the facts. The facts are, no one is selling the beach, which means nobody can buy the beach. And to be clear, if it was up to me, nobody will ever be able to buy the beach or ever sell the beach. My personal feelings. Tonight, let's be respectful to one another, listen to one another, one at a time, speaking please. If you can't obey the rules of decorum, which are clearly stated on the blue cards in the back of the room, in detail, you will be first warned, and then you'll be asked to step outside if you can't follow the rules on that, okay? The good news, though, we've added an extra minute to public comment, so it's 3 minutes now. And remember, by the end of this meeting, no decisions, which means no votes will be made on any information received tonight or spoken tonight. Again, I repeat, no decision and no voting will take place at the end of this meeting tonight. This is your chance to be heard, to speak your mind, to be respectful of one another, speak your hopes, your passions, your dreams. Okay? And I'm very, very excited to have you all here, but this is something that we have to do together. And with that said, City Manager, do you have an update?
Thank you, Mayor. Commission, I wanted to kind of open up being here for the last 3 years and sort of grappling through the period of time when the casino and the beach reopened in 2012, and having to confront on a regular basis the operations and some of the issues. And you mentioned a few, Mayor, dealing with the fact we have vacancy upstairs. We're trying to operate the ballroom on a shoestring. The maintenance of the pool, I've been sort of outspoken on that. Shortfalls in the beach fund and other operational issues at the beach. And I just first want to make very clear, when we've said operations, it's no reflection on the staff that work at the beach. And much to my chagrin, in trying to deal with the budget for the beach fund, we've probably done too good of a job making it look easy. Because we're obligated, and we've had this conversation, to balance the budget every year. You can't approve a budget that's not balanced. So when you come to the beach operations, it gets balanced. And it's been balanced on the backs of a couple of things. One is inadequately, in some regards, staffing the operation at the beach. And that falls on the back of Juan and his folks. The ballroom is run by one person basically, and then they sort of pull together a team as events and things happen. And I can tell you that's a daunting task dealing with that operation. There's no adequate storage. They don't even have office space. They're functioning in a vacant space. The maintenance crew over there, again, they're doing the best they can to go day to day with some issues that take a lot of time, effort, and energy. And we put that show on every day, sunrise, sunset, and people go there because it's such a wonderful facility. It is our pride and joy. It is our jewel. But the staff there has made it work, and I guess giving people the impression that there's not really any problems there. Meanwhile, you come to commission meeting, you hear me ranting and raving, pulling my hair out about the fact we're not adequately taking care of the beach, we're not addressing certain capital needs, and we're not paying the loan back. That's how we balance the budget there. So we hope the discussion coming forward in the budget, which is going to be happening, you'll get to see truly what it takes to staff the beach, from lifeguards to adequate maintenance to the capital maintenance needs, as well as repayment of debt. So with that said, who the heck came up with this idea of an ITN to try to address this? Okay, I did. I'm the father of the ITN, or the mother, as some people would say. And I want to be very clear. Let's explain how we came up with the ITN process. If we were so definitive about what we understood you could do in those spaces, which nobody seemed to could figure out for a while. And if you remember, when I got here, y'all were arguing over 4 leases, of which they're all different. I think at one time there was one vendor that actually had the upstairs space, and it was just it was mayhem. We said, let's look at what people are coming to us with over the last couple of years. There was a lot of different proposals. It ranged from the wave rider kind of concept to one guy wanted to put a putt-putt golf course. I mean, just all kinds of tiki bar. How do you take, within the confines of that area, we're talking about the casino, ballroom area, the pool area, and have the best minds in the private sector come up with concepts of how to do something there that would reduce our costs, hopefully, by taking over some of the maintenance, but also generate revenues so that we can actually staff up the beach and maintain and do right by this asset. That's where the ITN process comes in. It's the one tool that's allowed for in state law that encourages creative proposals, which we were intending to try to see private sector bring to us. It also incorporates a negotiation process. So when somebody comes up with some bonehead idea at the beginning of the process, as you beat them up through the process, negotiating back and forth, it's like making sausage. It is not pretty. If you listen to the tapes of our process, and I apologize for some of the comments that may have been made, but I can tell you the people in the committee pulled no punches. They were tough negotiators. They were probably a little too tough in some cases, but that was, like I said, making the sausage to get to a better product, hopefully. It also allows the ITN for comparison of apples and oranges proposals. How do you take those various components up there and compare something one-to-one? If we had that ability, we would have done an RFP and spelled out very specific parameters. But that's not our expertise, and that's not what was afforded to us in the opportunities up there. In the beach casino complex area, really the ballroom casino and the pool area is what we're talking about. So the ITN allowed us all that flexibility and ability to go through a process. And that was the intent. Intents don't always work, and I apologize to everyone that this thing went off the rails the way it did. It wasn't our intent. Our intent was really bring forward good, decent proposals, the best that we could negotiate. Also understand that in the ITN document, it was very specific about the items that Glenn will cover. So that provided the parameters. In the zoning district that was approved in 2007, the BAC zoning district, that sets forth what you can do at the beach is in place. And that was some parameters that we had to work within and actually spend some time trying to define. It was tough on staff because they had never been confronted with what a proposal looks like using those zoning district parameters. And then most importantly, Mayor, you mentioned you can't do certain things with the beach. In the charter, and I'm going to read it just for the record, Article 2, Section 3 states, city-owned property east of A1A roadway shall not be declared surplus property and shall not be sold, hypothecated, conveyed, or leased, except for a lease of less than 20 years, without the affirmative vote of a majority of the electors of the city of Lake Worth and notice and scheduled referendum. You can't sell the beach. And, it's very clear in the charter how that would even occur. And I know that people of the city would never, ever, ever vote for that. So, just wanted to read that into the record. Understand there was parameters and understand there was process, and the intent was really for the good and best that we could do. So here we are. I'm going to turn it over to Glenn now to take over and talk about the recommendation of the committee.
Okay. So as you know, the ITN process is commonly used, but it's not one that's used by the city of Lake Worth very often. Other communities use it. Generally, you go through the RFP process because you know what you're looking for. I'm doing an RFP to build this road, and everybody knows they're going to build this road, and it's going to be a mile long, and I want the proposal on how much it's going to cost and what's the material you're going to use. The ITN is when you don't have a clear decision of what you want to do. You are looking for ideas as to how creatively, such as the casino, how can you use this space? And as Mike mentioned, over the years, different people have come forward with everything from putt-putt golfs to tiki bars, but nothing ever got solid. It was always just conversation. So the point was to go out to the community and say, okay, here is a broad-based concept. We have an upstairs space, we have a pool, we have this casino area. Give us ideas. And 3 different proposals came forward. You've heard a lot about Hudson Holdings. You've heard something about the restaurant that was proposed upstairs, and then there was another group that was proposing a wave pool, but I'm not gonna say they completely dropped out, but from what I understand, they really didn't follow up with the committee. The commission, I remember at least twice, talked about forming the ITN committee, and I think at the second meeting, Commissioner Amoroso was appointed to be the commission representative on that committee. At one point, I think Commissioner Maxwell, Commissioner McGoy both had indicated interest in it at one meeting, but then at a second meeting, it was Commissioner Amoroso, and maybe was wrong about who was interested. So anyway, the commission approved it, and it's a quasi-private and quasi-public process, because the committee meets in private, because you're not going to negotiate publicly when the competitors are sitting in the room. So that makes no sense. You can't negotiate with proposer A and proposer B is sitting there. So you have separate meetings, private meetings, but those are all tape recorded. And obviously everybody's heard the tape recordings of the meeting, and as Mike's indicated, the committee pulled no punches. Their position was to get the best possible deal and be very blunt and straightforward in their thoughts about the proposals. So at the end of the day, they became public. The committee is finished their work. April 28th was their last meeting. And then they have forwarded to the commission 3 recommendations. You have full discretion, not tonight because that's a workshop, but ultimately as to whether you accept any of those 3 recommendations. You reject everything, you start from scratch, you sit back, you have all the discretion in the world as to where you go. Their 3 recommendations were to to direct the city staff to develop what's called an RFQ, request for qualifications, for a firm to prepare a traffic development impact study to discern visible, viable levels of development and intensity. As Mike mentioned, that project 10 years ago or 8 years ago was zoned for a certain number of square feet. But from what I understand, no one ever did traffic studies to see, can we support that square feet there? What can you put there? You know, is parking an issue? We've heard sitting here, parking is an issue. So how do you address parking with whatever proposal's gonna come forward? A second recommendation was that during the budget process, you all hold a separate workshop on the beachfront to address those policy decisions that, again, Mike indicated. You know, the beach is not making money, it's not breaking even. As a commission, is the policy that, okay, we're not gonna make money there because that's a public amenity. Or, yes, we have to at least break even there or come closer to breaking even there. The pool, how do you use the pool? Those are all budgetary decisions. And a second and a third recommendation is that the commission continue negotiations with Anderson Carr, which was representing Oceanside Bar and Grill, for the lease of the upstairs space, vacant space at the casino building and management, or leasing the casino ballroom. So those are the three recommendations of the committee, but again, as it mentions in your staff report, you have full authority to ultimately decide to accept or reject any of those recommendations. I think everybody knows what the three were. Briefly again, the Wave House Miami proposed utilizing the existing pool to install a wave house, wave pool, and similar water recreational facilities with a tiki restaurant facility. Again, they really kind of dropped out of the process. Hudson Holdings proposed a convention event facility to complement the Gulfstream Hotel with associated retail, restaurant, spa, clubs, pools, and a parking structure. They made revisions during that negotiation process. So from what I understand, their final proposal was quite a bit different than the original proposal. And Anderson Carr, on behalf of the proposed Oceanside Bar and Grill, proposed building out that upstairs vacant space for a restaurant and taking over management of the ballroom. And they also made some revisions during the process. That's the gist of it. I guess Commissioner Amoroso, as the commission's liaison or representative on the committee, I don't know if you wanted to add to that before the public made their comments.
You pretty much covered everything. I just wanted to bring up a few things that jumped out. The Wave House, the board asked the Wave House to downsize a little bit, and one of the things that jumped out for the board was it would be like a spring break every weekend. We were concerned about that on behalf of the tenants that are already pre-existing, so we did come back in negotiations and asked to size down a little bit, and then they did not come back. The recommendation to move forward with some of the studies, it was my concern that we didn't do these studies from day one when we originally did the project, and the board suggestion was to move forward with some of these studies that weren't done, and Hudson Holdings were kind of put on a 6-month back burner, so to speak, until we saw if we were going to move forward with these studies, and that would be up to this commission if they want to move forward with those studies at this date. Anything that we do up there, we did identify that one of the biggest things is parking. One of my concerns is if we were to put 2 floors of parking, is that enough for what is already pre-existing and an additional 5,000 square feet of retail space or rental space upstairs? And that may or may not be because we don't have the studies. And if we're going to put some kind of additional parking, it was the board's decision that we really needed a true study to say whether you needed 2, you needed 3, you needed 4, for exactly what's pre-existing and future growth, if there is any future growth. The last piece, the Anderson and Carr, for upstairs, the recommendation was to continue moving forward to see if we could come up with some financial agreement, so to speak, because we thought that their suggestion on what they were willing to pay was not close enough to what we needed for that space. So depending on where we move forward after discussion tonight, those were really, and Glenn kind of highlighted a little bit more, but that's really what the thought pattern was from the board moving forward. And
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ford?
Well, I think you were about to say something.
No, I was just gonna say, I was gonna open it up to public comments and we can have discussion after.
Okay,
Public
then
comments, is that
if
okay?
I might comment,
Sure,
I
go
probably
ahead.
would. And then I think you'd like to comment.
Okay.
I think I'm correct that I find it a little surprising, but I think it's true that I'm the person who's been on the commission the longest and goes back to some of the period when the renovations at the beach were first being considered, this round of it. And I'd like to just comment a little bit, pull back, and if it resonates with people, fine, and if you see things differently, then I hope you'll speak up at that in your comments. But my recollection, when we were trying to create support or kind of respond to support in the community, that something needed to be done at the beach. We had an older building that was somewhat of an eyesore, to say the least. The context that I heard at that time repeatedly was that location, that 20 acres of land and the building on it was very much of a community focal point. And I'm trying to find a good word for it, and I didn't really find one, but a place that the community had at one time had pride in, a place that many people had meant something in their personal lives. I think many of you have heard that. I heard from a number of people that my high school graduation was at the beach casino, the ballroom, or my prom was there, or, you know, and Mark knows much of the history, or I was married there, or I met my wife there at a dance, or it was a place, and I remember it. I remember going to some of the dances, and the ballroom was nothing fancy at that time. It was pretty rugged, but it was a place that people had pride in and had an attachment to. It was a focal point. And in my mind, and I think in the mind of what I heard from a lot of people at that time, is the focus of that area is primarily a park and a meeting place for the community. And to the extent that you want to have a building there and you want to have some commercial activities, that is secondary to the idea of this is a central meeting place that good things happen. Families go there, kids play there and don't get into too much trouble. Events of various sorts that relate to the community happen there. And I think that was kind of the basis for agreeing as a community that, hey, let's dip into our pocket, let's dip into the utility and borrow a chunk of money, $6 million, and redo that building. In the interest that, look, this is something for us. It's not primarily a commercial area. Yeah, it's nice to get a hot dog or a pizza or whatever, but it's a place that we care about as a community, and we want to have pride in what both it looks like in terms of the 20 acres of land and what it looks like in the building and the functionality. And a lot of us who were on the commission at that time pushed very hard to quantify how much of the proposed building would in fact be public space. I remember we had discussions of if we put a balcony on the second floor in front of a restaurant, will you be allowed to bring your book and your sandwich and sit there on a table? Or will that be rented space belonging to a restaurant that you can't go on? Or will you have commercial activities there that kind of say after a while, you know what? We kind of don't like some of those people being around here too much, so maybe we'll have some, kind of hustle them away. And there was a concern that no, this needs to be a place that's very much a public focal point for our community. And I think we have at times gotten away from that a little bit, and we call it an amenity, and that's probably okay. I think it kind of undervalues it a little bit. It kind of undervalues what the purpose of that area is to our community. And it's fine that there are commercial things there. It's fine that you can eat there. It's fine that you can do a number of them. But let's keep in mind that especially the public's parts, the ballroom, wants to be something, not just a moneymaker, but a place where community events, where we really promote our community and promote events that don't necessarily make any money, but just are good for our community. So those are my comments. I know that it comes up often, people get a little bit hot under the collar and say, well, we can't sell the beach. But listen to that carefully. It's not about selling the beach. Let's say that we do a public-private partnership, and I'm a private entity that wants to have certain activities at the beach. Now I'm going to come along because I'm a private entity and my motivation is to generate a certain amount of income. That's understandable, that's normal. But to do that, I might say, you know what, I need to have control over a certain amount of the parking, or all of the parking. Or I'm going to put up a sign that says this part of the building is closed off because I have an activity that is money-making and that takes priority over whatever public thinks. It's not, the concern that I hear from the community is not, can you sell the beach, can you not sell the beach? And I think we do a disservice to the public if we say, oh, you can't sell the beach, you can't sell the beach, don't worry. No. The concern that I hear in the community goes back to that focus, that you have to be very careful as you start thinking about the beach has to make money or we're going to do a public-private partnership. Are you starting down a path that significantly diminishes the ability for it to be a public place where people can go to freely and do a range of healthy activities there? So those are my comments. I hope they're helpful.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Well, let me give you my take on all this. I was here in 2001, procedure. In 2002, when a decision was made that we're just gonna go out and bond for 19 or $20 million to rebuild that beach. And I was the only person that said, oh no, we can't do this. And the reasons we couldn't do it, the reasons I objected, were that it was a known fact that the vast majority of the people who utilize that beach don't even live in this city. That was number one. Number two, because the vast majority of people that use that beach don't live in our city, it is known as a regional beach. It's a regional beach. And my position was, why would the taxpayers of Lake Worth foot the bill in its entirety for a regional beach for folks to come from Palm Springs and West Palm Beach and Lantana, unincorporated Palm Beach County, and all points beyond there, at our expense? So that was a little history back in those days. The usership of that beach hasn't changed. It continues to be a regional beach. It's a regional beach. That's first and foremost. The fact that the beach itself, the 19 acres, was spun off by previous commission and made into its own fund came about as a result of the commitment by the powers that be at the time that this project was going to not only break even, but we would no longer subsidize businesses on the beach, and we would no longer lose money on the beach. That's how it was sold to the public. That's how it was sold to the public. And I stood here and said, the financial model that you guys are implementing here or proposing to the public will not work. I sat here night after night, week after week, month after month, and said it will not work. And I gave all kinds of reasons why it wouldn't work. But that was okay. It was going to pay for itself. We were going to pay the city back, and we'd never have to worry about it again.